There we go. Okay. I think we're live. So hello, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to the October Speaker Series Day 2. I'm your host, Veronica Seta. I'm one of the social media interns here at Wonsulting. And today we're going to be diving into careers in business operations to really showcase the responsibilities of being in business ops and how you can pursue a career in this industry. Go ahead, let us know where you're tuning in from. We'd love to see where you guys are at. So go ahead and drop that in the comments. Where are we tuning in from today? I see a lot of yay, Ronnie. Thank you guys. Okay, Inez, I see you. Get the comments going a little bit here. India, awesome. Hey. Jamaica. Central California. Hey, I'm in Cali too. Brooklyn. Hey, Joe. New York. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for being here. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to bring on our panelists. All of them are in the business ops sector, so I can't wait to introduce them to you guys. So let's go ahead and welcome Amy, Brianna, and Dominic. Thank you for joining us today.
Hey guys.
Hey guys.
What's going on, everyone?
How is everyone doing this morning?
Good, good.
Very well. Can't complain. Another day, another dollar.
Yes, let's get it. Awesome. So I just want to go ahead and introduce you guys to the audience a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and start with Brianna, if you'd like to introduce yourself a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Brianna Plowright. I'm originally from Kingston, Jamaica, and I'm currently a supply chain planner at Microsoft. And previous to that, I graduated from Howard University in December of 2019, and I majored in supply chain management. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today. Next, I'm going to go to Amy if you want to introduce yourself a little bit.
Sounds great. Hi, everyone. I'm Amy. I'm originally from Michigan, and I went to Baltimore to attend college at Johns Hopkins University. I majored in biomedical engineering, but then kind of pivoted to consulting, and now I'm working on the strategy and operations team at Google. And so I'm excited to be here and meet all of you virtually.
Yay, thank you so much. I'm from the Bay Area, or I'm in the Bay Area right now as well, so that's really cool. Dominic, do you want to introduce yourself?
Of course. What's going on, everybody? My name is Dominic Carroll. Most people just call me Dom. I'm currently a business operations manager at Amazon. I'm from Peoria, Illinois. Nobody has probably ever heard of it, but if you know Sean Livingston or Richard Pryor, that's like our only claim to fame. I did move to California. I lived in the Bay Area for about 5 to 6 years. I graduated from the San Jose State University with a degree in finance, not nearly, the biomedical, or excuse me, the engineering degree, but, still finance. I love numbers. But I am a Bay Area transplant living in Las Vegas now. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for being here. We're so excited. And I guess I'm just going to go ahead and get started. We're going to dive into these questions. And to the audience, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments and we will answer those at the end for a little Q&A. So I'm going to start with what are your main responsibilities as a business operations manager or your current roles? Brianna, I want to start with you.
Yeah, sure. So I'm currently a supply chain planner at Microsoft, I'll say again, and cloud supply chain to be exact. So I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with cloud supply chain, but Microsoft's cloud is called Azure, similar to, Google's cloud or Apple's iCloud and so on. And what I do per se is manage the end of life capabilities of some of the parts within the data centers that we work with. So Microsoft Cloud is basically facilitated on, data centers all over the world. And I manage some of the parts that go into these data centers. So if you look up, some YouTube videos on, what the data centers look like, you might see CPUs and memory cards and all those different things. So we're the ones that manage those components and make sure that they're not, end of life, which means like have an expiration date that's coming up. So we would manage those parts and try to find, replacements if they're going end of life, or try to do a last time buy. So yeah, that's pretty much most of what we do.
Awesome. That's really interesting. I myself am not that familiar with cloud supply chain, but I'm really interested in everything that you just listed to learn more about it. Amy, I'm going to go to you next. What are your main responsibilities in your role?
Yeah, so my current role is strategy and operations analyst at Google. And so I'm working on the advertiser space, essentially coming up with more ideas for how to acquire advertisers that have never advertised with Google before, and specifically doing that through third parties. Like Shopify is like one of our biggest partners, where we have them onboard all these new mom and pop shops and have them introduced to Google Ads through a third party. And so I'm helping to look at like how have these performed historically, and how can we onboard new partners successfully. So it's been, I've only been in my role for about 4 months, so everything was remote onboarding. It's been kind of a journey doing that. So far it's been good though, and I do a lot of data analysis and a lot of presentations on a day-to-day basis.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love that you work with small businesses as well. I think it's really important to work with all kinds of businesses. Dominic, I'm going to go to you next. What are your main responsibilities in your role?
Yeah, so like I said earlier, I'm a business operations manager at Amazon, and like Amy, a lot of my day-to-day consists of reporting, analysis, looking at data. But essentially, I'm responsible for the post installation operations for the KFB, which is Key for Business technology that we use here at Amazon. So essentially, what KFB is it's technology that allows our delivery drivers one-click access to properties that have like gated communities or lockers or mail rooms, because when you don't get your package, it's a headache for you, and then that's a lot on us. So essentially, what my job is to make sure that the delivery drivers not only have all the information and the correct information to deliver these packages, also, working on streamlining their processes as well as our processes as well. KFB is still fairly new, so a lot of my day is like, oh, this came up. Okay, let's come up with a process for it. Let's come up with an SOP. So trying to come up with processes and systems to put in place to make sure that we're scaling at a reasonable rate and a maybe not organic, but a nice rate. To say the least. But ultimately, just coming up with a lot of reporting and presenting this to leadership to kind of see like how well we're doing to promote, I guess.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing what you guys do. Everyone, let's put hashtag Amy, hashtag Brianna, hashtag Dominic into the chat to show them some love. I'm going to go on into the next.
Appreciate it.
Yes, there we go. Hashtag Brianna, hashtag Amy. Okay, Jonathan's got us on lock. So I'm going to go into the next question. What makes you excited to go into work every morning? You all seem very passionate about your roles, so I just would like to know a little bit more about what makes you wake up every morning. So I'll start with Dom.
Yeah, so I kind of alluded to it earlier. I don't know about y'all, but working at Amazon, if I don't get my package, I know I'm upset. But people don't really understand the gravity that goes into that. So just to kind of break it down, when you don't get your package, that causes a headache for you, right? You didn't get your package, so you're upset. Now you reach out to customer service. Now customer service is, okay, they're trying to figure it out. They're trying to adjudicate the situation. But there's also the drivers. The drivers try to call you twice. They then have to take it back to the fulfillment center, which is a huge ordeal in itself. So basically what makes me excited is knowing that you don't complain about your packages, because the technology that we're working on eliminates all of that. So it's so streamlined and it's so simple, but it's little things like this, the headaches that you don't have, the headaches that we don't have, and ultimately making it just a lot more streamlined, a lot more efficient, just really makes me excited. I don't know if you could tell, I could probably talk about it for another 10 minutes, but I'll make sure to leave time for everybody else.
Yeah, I love the passion. We love to see it. So Amy, I'll go to you next. What makes you excited to go to work every morning?
Yeah, for me, it's definitely my team and the people that I work with. Whenever I'm in like one-on-one meetings, I always feel like a sponge, just like absorbing knowledge and just learning so much from these people. And part of it's probably because I'm so new in the role, but I also just like the culture and the environment. Even virtually, I feel like our team does a really good job of being able to help organize team events. We've done like pumpkin bread baking together. We've done like virtual paint nights where they send a paint kit to our house, and then we'll like have an instructor go through a landscape. And so it's been really fun, even remote onboarding. And so I think they've done a really good job with that.
Nice, nice. And then Brianna, I'll ask you the same question. What makes you excited to go into work every morning?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, we're living during a pandemic right now. So I'm very grateful for the fact that I'm employed right now, first of all. But with, work, I am very happy to, be challenged every day at work and being able to work on things that I actually care about. So sometimes I would see like a process that's broken or something that could have been done way easier with, like some programming language or so on. I'm able to start that initiative because of the support from my team members and my manager. So I'm very grateful for that. And it makes me happy to, go into work each day.
Yeah, it's definitely been a hard time with COVID, and having a job right now is definitely just a really great thing. So I'm glad that we all do, So I don't know if you guys have followed Wonsulting's content lately, but we do a little segment where we do a day in the life of X. So that's kind of my next question. I'd like you to take us through what's a typical day in the life for you doing the role that you do. So go ahead, start with Brianna. What's a typical day in the life for you?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, I would have, to-do list. So I would, have a whiteboard where I'd write my to-do list for the day. And then at Microsoft, we have meetings a lot. So there's always a meeting with something that is probably, going on, and we'd have to find some mitigation strategies to, kind of lower the intensity of how drastic it could be. So I would definitely take care of those items first. And then afterwards, I would work on some of my day-to-day projects. So some of the end-of-life processes that I told you guys about, some of that. I would also work on some of my SQL stuff that I'm working on. And, towards the end, I would usually meet up with my team. And we would just, fill each other in on what projects we're working on. And we would also, talk about, other top level items or top of mind items that we would want to work on for the rest of the day or for the next day. So that's pretty much what we're about. But mostly meetings some of the time. So,
okay, cool. Amy, we'll go to you next. What's a typical day in the life for you?
So I would start usually with checking off my emails and any chat threads that I have going on. And then I have about 3 to 5 meetings each day. So they're about half an hour each. And then outside of that, I'm usually doing some data analysis. So that's either pulling data and manipulating in Excel or SQL, and then putting it into decks like PowerPoints, and then Google Slides. And then another part of my day is presenting to leadership. And so I think those are the 3 main components, like data analysis, creating decks, and presenting insights.
Nice. Yeah, me and my coworkers, we definitely are spending a lot of times putting decks together, showing them to John and Jerry. So I know that life. Dom, we'll go to you next. Typical day in the life.
Very similar to Amy's. As with both of my counterparts, a lot of meetings, roughly 3 to 5 meetings a day. And, checking those important email threads and those chat logs. A lot of the time, a lot of work is done kind of in the later afternoon. And so if you don't get to those emails the day before, naturally, you're going to wake up to quite a few. So filtering through those and, responding accordingly and appropriately to the stakeholders. And then, after that, have my meetings. And then after that, it's a lot of data analysis and then, compiling these reports and putting these into decks. Because a lot of the work we do is like very analysis driven. So I have to make sure that not only is my data correct, but I can articulate it in a confident manner. So that way, if management or leadership does ask questions, it's not like I'm very organized and I'm very clear. But other than that, I do have a team that I manage. So, working with my team and making sure they have all the tools and resources that they need to do their job efficiently. That's one of my biggest priorities is, constantly working with my team. Hey, what's going on, Tika? You got everything you need today? What's going on? Just making sure that I'm there and available as well. Because when you are managing a team, it's not like you can just focus on your day-to-day all day. You also have to keep in mind how your direct work affects your direct reports. So that's majority of my day, just a lot of reporting, a lot of meetings.
Nice. Yeah, I love that you really check in on your team. I think that's really important as a manager to really just go around the table and see what everyone needs. So if you guys in the comments, if you think that everything they just said was insightful, let's put hashtag insightful into the chat. And we're going to go ahead and move on to our next question, which is a little bit opposite from the previous. What is the thing that you like the least about your job? Amy, we'll go ahead and start with you.
Yeah, so in all of my roles, there's always been a reporting component, and that's always my least favorite because these are basically like weekly or monthly reporting where you go over revenue, you go over metrics like number of users, number of accounts, and it's very important because leadership needs to keep a track on like how are we doing as a business, and you get good visibility, but at the same time, it can get really repetitive, and a lot of times it's just refreshing numbers on the same template, and so I try to keep it at a minimum, like maybe 10 to 15% of my overall workload. And then if it ever gets above that point, I try to automate some of it and try to make it so it's like a click of a button and it refreshes the numbers. So I try to reduce the part that I like the least.
Yeah, definitely. Dom, we'll go to you next. Something that you like the least about your job.
So kind of what I like the least is like a double-edged sword. I like it the least, but I also enjoy it because it allows me to think outside the box and come up with different things. So what I like least is the ambiguity. Like I mentioned earlier, Key for Business for Amazon is still in its infancy. So when I came on, I'm still roughly new to this organization. I started about a month and a half ago. So coming on new and then trying to understand the processes, it's like, okay, so this is what's going on. Wait a minute. Did y'all know about this? And so a lot of like, okay, let's create an SOP, and just a lot of the work that I have is just comes up on the spot. So kind of that ambiguity and on that spot, kind of reporting and stuff is a little bit of a hassle, but for the most part, like I said, I really enjoy it because it really keeps me on my toes. I don't have time to just sit around and, have the Umbrella Academy or The Office on TV and I'm just kind of looking over. I have to be fully paying attention because at any given time, they can ask for something or they'll need something that I'll have to provide. So that ambiguity and urgency is kind of what I like least. But like I said, I thoroughly enjoy it.
Yeah. And I'd imagine that's a skill that you kind of just develop over time of just like being quick on your feet and being able to respond to these things that come up. So Brianna, we'll go to you next.
Yeah, sure. So the thing I like the least is same as Dominic. So ambiguity and also some of the manual processes that are in place. However, some of the manual things actually turn up to be or end up to be an opportunity for me to kind of find a way to automate it. So that's actually one of the initiatives that I'm driving right now, where I've been seeing like a manual process in place. And I'm actually working on like some SQL codes and so on in order to make it more automated and things. So yeah, it's the thing I like the least, but it also provided an opportunity for me to kind of use my brain and think outside of the box as well. And yeah, it's been good otherwise.
Great. That's amazing. Everyone in the comments, if you have a question for any of our panelists, please go ahead and drop that into the comments right now. Put hashtag question and then put your question. So we're going to move on to the next question, which I think is really exciting because this is going to be my reality pretty soon. I'm almost about to graduate and start my career. So I'd like to ask you, how did you begin your career in the field that you're currently in? Amy, we'll go ahead and start with you.
Yeah, I kind of alluded to this earlier, but I studied engineering in college. So I was like doing biomedical engineering. I thought I was going to be either a doctor or working on prosthetic devices. But then later down the line, I realized that it's like the medical device industry is a little bit too slow paced for me. Usually it takes like 5 to 10 years to get FDA approval to get your device to market. And for me, I know myself, I'm not the most patient person. And so I want to see something very fast paced. And I think when I talk to alumni and I talk to friends, they said that consulting is a really great field where you can explore different industries and learn to know what you like and dislike. And so I jumped right into consulting right after graduation. And I learned that I really liked data analysis. I liked talking to clients. I liked traveling. And so I combined all of those interests, but I also had a passion for tech as well. So later down the line, I used all of those skills that I learned from consulting and pivoted towards internal consulting, which is like business operations or strategy and operations in tech.
Wow, it's really interesting that you kind of did that big pivot. That's really cool. Brianna, we'll go to you next. How did you begin your career in the field that you're currently in?
Yeah, sure. So back in Jamaica, we do this thing called sixth form, and it's 2 years after graduation. So the education system is kind of set up like that of the UK. And I was doing the sciences, so I did biology, chemistry, physics, and I was pretty much on track to going to medical school. However, I started a business in sixth form where I, sold carnival footwear for like some of the people that I was associated with. So it ended up scaling, and I had an Instagram page and everything. And then I realized that I kind of like the business side of things. So when I went into Howard and matriculated and everything, I ended up choosing supply chain management. I actually consulted with someone at first, and they told me that, hey, you've been doing supply chain all this time. So I did supply chain management, and I ended up getting really good job opportunities as internships and even full-time offers. And yeah, that's how I ended up in the field.
Nice. Yeah, I was looking on your LinkedIn last night. The boutique was called Tropic Souls Jamaica.
Yeah.
And are you still selling those shoes or not anymore?
Yeah, so because of COVID, we're unable to have carnival right now. So, but yeah, pretty much it was going on up until last year. So yeah.
Okay, cool. And then last but not least, we'll go to Dom. How did you begin your career in the field you're currently in?
Yeah, so immediately out of college, I started working at New York Life Insurance as a financial advisor and insurance salesman. And I quickly realized, that wasn't for me. I love talking to people and I love meeting new people, but I just didn't like some of the tactics that were used. So I was working at 2 restaurants at the time, and they were high-end restaurants on Santana Row in San Jose, California, if you're familiar. Wow. And I'm speaking to this, well, I wasn't speaking to her at the time. I saw this woman with this very expensive bag on the ground, and I was just like, oh my God, why would you put this on the ground? And she was like, well, why would you pick it up? And I was just like, I mean, no offense to all these people next to me, but this bag costs more than everything that we're wearing. So let me get a chair. And I put it on the chair, and I'm talking to her, and she was telling me that she works as a director of recruiting for a contracting agency. And we're talking, and, they come back a few weeks later, and then 2 weeks later, her and her friends, they offered me, jobs on the spot. So that's pretty much how it was, the luck of the draw. While I was talking to her, she made a lot of sense. She brought up a lot of things, we had very in-depth conversations. I told her, I loved fixing broken things. I love finding what's broken and then coming up with processes and systems to proactively solve these, because the last thing we want to do is after the levee breaks, slap some tape on it and say, okay, it's fixed. No, it's going to break again. So let's build a bigger, better, faster, stronger levee so that way it doesn't break. So ultimately, just networking and connecting with people and just keeping my options open. Like I said, I graduated with a degree in finance and started working in the financial sector. And I quickly realized, like I said, that wasn't for me. So just by networking and talking to individuals and just not being afraid to shake some stranger's hand, that's ultimately how I kind of got my passion or got my foot in the door at or for business operations.
Yeah, that's really insightful, everyone. Let's put #insightful into the comment section below. And we're going to go ahead and go into our next question. Dom, since you were talking about, getting lucky and meeting recruiters and things like that, what were some of the skills, abilities, and personal attributes that were essential to your success, to your job in this field?
Yeah, so a lot of the skills is just, Amy hit it on the head earlier, being a sponge, because a lot of the time, when you come to these new roles, these new organizations, these new teams, you're brand new. You don't know what's going on. And sometimes, myself included, we make the mistake of like trying to offer our insight immediately off the bat. But sometimes it's just always nice to take a step back and just be a sponge and soak in that information. So then you can really see with fresh eyes, okay, this is what worked, this is what didn't work. And then also a sense of urgency. those that want it, go get it. I don't know anybody that kind of sat around and waited for something to happen, and it happened exactly the way that they wanted it to, and they got everything they wanted out of it. So some go-getters as well. And other skills is just a lot of technical skills, sharpening and honing those. Your Excel, your SQL, your speaking skills. There's so many other technical skills that you can work on as well. But ultimately, just that burning desire to succeed. If you have that burning desire to succeed, everything else will fall into place. I didn't know too much Excel before I started in operations, and now I'm getting pretty good at it. I had no idea what SQL was. I thought it was after something, and now I'm exposed and I'm starting to learn it. So ultimately, that desire to learn and being a sponge are probably the most important that I've used to kind of reach this level.
Yeah, for sure. Brianna, we'll go to you next. Same question. What skills, abilities, and personal attributes do you find helped you to your success?
Yeah, sure. So in terms of personal attributes, Microsoft does actually say this a lot, but having a growth mindset. So similar to what Dominic said, just being a sponge for the first couple of months and just being open to learning new things and basically learning different ways of doing the same things that you're familiar with, So that's definitely one of the top things. And in terms of skills and abilities, I would definitely echo what Dominic said as well with technical capabilities, just being highly data driven and familiar with, Power BI, SQL, Tableau, all those different tools. LinkedIn Learning actually has like a bunch of those certifications and lessons that you can, jump on and learn and end up getting a certification afterwards. So I would highly recommend that. It has helped me tremendously with just, ramping up on the job. And yeah, so those are the top things that, are very essential to success.
Yeah, it sounds like being a self-starter is kind of key when learning all of these new things for sure. So lastly, we'll go to Amy. Same question.
Yeah, Dominique and Brianna basically covered everything here, but I'll have to echo the point where I think being curious and actually asking a lot of questions and then being a sponge and absorbing that early on is really key. I think when I first started off, I was worried that people would think I'm dumb if I'm asking all these questions that I should know the answers to. But I think you should just really play the newbie card and say, hey, I'm very new. I'm curious. What do you do on a day-to-day basis? How can I plug into your work? And then you start to understand more and more, and you ramp up a lot more quickly if you're just curious and passionate and ask a lot of questions. And then I also think that the willingness to learn is just key. And these two have already covered it, but these are all the key things that we look for, not only as an analyst, but also when we're interviewing, we try to look for people who have a passion and willingness to learn and show that in the behavioral questions. And then those are the people that we want to bring onto our teams.
Yeah, definitely. A willingness to learn is something that I think all of us interns, when we were first hired back in September, we all brought that to the table. And even now, I've never moderated before, but I have a willingness to learn how to do it. So here I am. And this is a really good segue to, thank you, Dom. This is a really good segue into the kind of accomplishments that tend to be valued and rewarded in this field. I think that would be really interesting for our audience to hear. So Brianna, we'll start with you.
Yeah, sure. So accomplishments that are valued, I would say taking initiatives, so taking initiative, especially in this workspace, says a lot. So identifying some gaps in the work that you do and being able to solve them or come up with, a V team to be established and furthermore try to work on the solution for that problem is very much looked highly upon. So within my org, we really value taking initiative and just, trying to enhance process improvement pretty much.
Okay, cool. So definitely kind of just taking the reins into yourself and looking at yourself analytically to see where you can improve and, make a bigger difference for your company. So Dom, will go to you next. The kinds of accomplishments that tend to be valued and rewarded in the field.
Definitely. Really want to echo what Brianna said, hit the nail on the head. That sense of urgency, or that, as we call it at Amazon, bias for action. So here at Amazon, we have 12 leadership principles that we follow, and that's kind of what we use to value our accomplishments. If you haven't taken a look at those, I would definitely look at those, but that's something that I try to live by every day. The most important one is frugality. I'm super cheap, so that just spoke to me. But ultimately, yeah, having that bias for action, that sense of urgency to like proactively find issues, but not only proactively find them, because it's one thing to say like, hey, Amy, I have an issue. Okay, Dom, you have an issue. So people that like find the issues and then come up with the solution, those are like really what we look for, because a lot of the time it's like, I have a lot that I'm focusing on. Brianna, Amy, everybody has a lot that they're focusing on. So we can't really take the time to really not micromanage, but like really full deep dive into what it is that they're doing. So they have to take that initiative to really understand everything and then present what they understand in a manner that lets me know that they understand. So it's like, okay, I know that you're getting this. Okay, so let's give you a little bit more. How would you feel reporting? How would you feel on taking this? So I'm showing that initiative, and on top of that, just not being afraid to do the dirty work. Like you said, you've never moderated before. That's fantastic. You're learning a new skill, you're growing, you're getting comfortable being uncomfortable. So that's another thing that we look for. People that aren't afraid to just go out on a limb, even if you're wrong. Play that newbie card, play that, I tried, it didn't work. Play that card, take those risks, because nobody ever made $1 million, living in their comfort zone and doing everything that they felt they needed to do to, be comfortable. So getting out of your comfort zone and taking that initiative will definitely take you very far here at Amazon.
Right. Yeah, for sure. They always say, like, if you're uncomfortable doing something, then you're doing the right thing because you're learning something new, right?
There you go.
Amy, we'll go to you next. The kind of accomplishments that tend to be valued in your field.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better than these two. Definitely proactiveness and initiative. I'll give an example that when I started off at Groupon as a business operations analyst, I was given the dirty work of essentially looking at a dashboard and filtering to different like regions, different user segments, and taking screenshots of this dashboard and putting it into a deck so that leadership can see how are we performing in terms of revenue and users and all of those metrics. And it would be over 50 screenshots. I would do it every Monday. It took like 20 or 30 minutes, and it was so boring and so mind numbing. And so then I decided, you know what, like I don't have to do it manually. Like I can learn how to code this. And I've only taken one intro to programming course in college. So I just started Googling, like, how do people write things in Python, and how can I piece together other pieces of code that I can use to automate this? Eventually I was able to piece together a script that essentially goes to the dashboard link, scrolls the right number of pixels, takes that image, saves it as a PNG, and then interacts with Google Slides to just place the image in. So you just like click the run button and then grab a coffee, and then 10 minutes later, your deck is done. And so I ended up presenting this to like the solution to my leadership, and they were like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, let's share this with all the analysts that end up doing this type of work. And so I ended up saving not only my time every week, but a lot of analysts had similar types of reporting tasks. So that's like an example of proactiveness that I try to bring up in interviews to show and not just tell people how I'm able to show initiative in types of in work environments.
That is absolutely insane. I don't even think I would know like where to start to build something like that. So, oh my gosh, like congratulations on building that whole thing out. That's huge. So we'll go ahead and go to our next question. If you guys have any questions for our panelists, please put #question into the chat and then put your question. So our next question is, what advice would you give someone who is considering this type of job in this field? So we'll go ahead and start with Amy again, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so I'd say 3 pieces of advice. So the first is networking. I absolutely made the mistake of just cold applications everywhere, and I just got rejected left and right. I realized later down the line that networking and just meeting people who are actually in the field, you get to know what their day-to-day is like and get to actually understand and tailor, that's the second piece, tailor your resume to the role itself and to the job description. You don't want to just be blasting out your resume everywhere and having it the same and not personalized. And then the third piece would be to get a referral at these companies. A lot of times that will help get your foot in the door. Otherwise, your resume can get lost along with millions of others.
Yeah, lost in the sauce, as they say. So Brianna, we'll go to you next. Any advice you would give someone who is considering a type of job in this field?
Yeah, sure. So to echo Amy, pretty much, networking, especially on LinkedIn, and attending some of the conferences. There are a bunch of online and virtual conferences right now that are focused on operations or even supply chain. Just being a sponge in those conferences and learning more, I would highly recommend that. And again, to repeat what I said before about just accumulating all the certifications that might have to do with technical analysis or any data-driven work, that would also be like really valuable in the job search process, because you can put it on your resume, and a lot of companies are looking for people with that data-driven mindset right now. And thirdly, yes, to get a referral, it does work sometimes. So I would recommend that as well. And networking with all the different persons that you might find within the company. So some of the recruiters might be bombarded with LinkedIn messages right now. So, try to reach out to the hiring managers, try to reach out to, just the day-to-day persons like myself who probably aren't bombarded with messages on LinkedIn, but, reaching out to recruiters alone isn't really gonna help that much, because you aren't gonna learn that much about the role, and they might not have the time to give you with, just talking or having that 15-minute coffee chat that you're looking forward to. So reaching out to hiring managers and other employees, I would highly recommend that.
Yes, definitely. This is all stuff that Wonsulting preaches to you guys. So definitely get your referrals. Let's put hashtag get your referral into the chat. And lastly, we'll go to Dom. What advice would you have for someone considering a type of job in this field?
Man, these ladies are brilliant. I mean, what can I say that they haven't said? What can I say they haven't said? No, but really good points. Networking. Had I not networked, I would not be here. Had I not picked up that lady's purse on the ground, I would not be here. So networking. The worst that can happen is you make a friend. It's the worst that can happen, just by reaching out to a stranger. You make a friend. Best case scenario, you get a job. You go to their house. You hang out. Like, what's the worst that can happen? So networking. After that, I would say touching up on those technical skills, making sure that you tailor your resume to what it is that you are good at. Too many times we see in a resume when I'm hiring, for example, I'll see like maintained this. Okay, yeah, you did a great job of maintaining that. But what exactly, when you maintained it, did you do? What value did you add? Kind of like how Amy was talking about how she created that automation. That's something that we want to see. What specifically did you do in these roles? Because ultimately, like, everybody can come up with a generic resume. I cleaned the floors. I greeted guests. Okay, what specifically did you do that added value to your company? How do you add value to yourself? And then lastly, I would just say, get organized. Get organized what you want. 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, and really plan that out and see how you see not only your personal life, but your career going. Because once you get that roadmap in place, everything else just starts to fall into place. They also made some really good points about networking on LinkedIn as well. And I'm not sure if y'all saw, but my man John, he dropped some nuggets. And one thing that he mentioned was, find somebody with the same name in the same company that you want to work for and send them a message. Like, I don't know how many Dominics there are at Amazon. Shoot, send me a message. That's fine. Send another Dom a message. Like, the worst that can happen is you make a friend. So definitely making sure on top of that, you're also prepared. The last thing you want to do is apply to some role that that's way over your head, and then now you're actually in there, and then you got to come kind of, get on the fly. But, when your resume is tailored, you have that roadmap, and you might not know exactly what it is that you want to do, but when you have a pretty good idea, everything else seems to fall in place.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. When you plan everything out, you just know where you're going, you know what steps to take, which extra things outside of your education that you should maybe work some more on. So definitely planning is key. Going into our next question, how does your position fit within the industry that you're in, or in the organization that you're in? We'll go ahead and start with Dom.
Yes. So I love when people ask me this question, because there's so many different, aspects to business that a lot of times people think it's very linear, but it's actually kind of like a not ping pong, a pinball. It's like all over the place. So essentially, I like to think of my team as kind of like the gasoline that gets the car going. There's so many other different pieces that it travels through: sales, incubation, ingestion, all these other different teams that it goes through until it hits me. But if it doesn't hit my team, the car is not going to drive. So essentially, once it hits my team, we put the gas in the vehicle and then we take off 150 miles per hour down the street and then we get rocking and rolling. So that's kind of how my position fits, and, overseeing it and just making sure that, things are going well. When things don't go well, that's on me. When things do go well, that's on the team. That's all them. They did all that heavy lifting. But when things go bad, I definitely take the brunt of that because, as a leader and as a manager, that's what you should do. You give your team the praise when they do well. And, when things aren't going so well, you take the blame for that because that is your team. That's your role. That they're your responsibility. So, that's how I would say my position fits within the organization, career, and industry.
Yeah, definitely learning how to hold yourself and your team accountable is a big piece as well. So we'll go ahead and go to Amy next. How does your position fit within the organization that you're currently in?
Yeah, we're under the sales org, and the sales org is split between small, medium businesses and large corporations, and I fall within small, medium businesses. And day to day, I'm working with program managers and being thought partners to them, and also working very closely with sales, marketing, product, finance. And I really like the car analogy, but that's really, it's a very cross-collaborative role. And so if you ever end up working with these people and you're like, oh, I actually like their day-to-day more, a lot of people from BizOps end up transitioning to more of these product marketing manager roles or program manager roles, and you can try that out because you get so much access to all of these partners that you really are able to just transition really easily later down the line.
Awesome. And we have Kat here saying that this is so helpful. So thank you guys so much. Going to Brianna next. How does your position fit within the organization you're currently in?
Yeah, sure. So in my position, which is the cloud supply chain planner, my overall team is called integrated supply chain planning. And we fit into the broader organization because we're the ones that pretty much lead the virtual teams with other industry experts. So engineering, finance, and procurement, all the other teams, we would be a part of that broader meeting, and we would lead in a sense of saying that, okay, here is the specific recs that we need, the system requirements, and so on. We'd have like a checklist of all the different items that we need to get ticked off, and we would just walk them through everything, and they would reply to us with all the different things that they need, and then we're pretty much like the middleman per se. So we communicate cross-functionally across different teams and try to help everyone see the broader picture and get all the results in line for the common goal. So yeah.
Nice. Well, it sounds like the organization definitely needs you as the middleman, and that you're a very important piece to your organization. So love to hear that. We're going to go ahead and go into our Q&A section of this live. So if you guys have any questions, please put #question and then put your question into the chat. I'm just going to scroll here and see if we've had any throughout our conversation. I have one here for Amy. What different software certifications do you recommend that would be helpful for someone wanting to get into consulting?
I'd actually say you don't need specific certifications to get into consulting, but it's good to have some kind of problem-solving background. So they do look for people with engineering backgrounds or business backgrounds that already have some of these skills. I would say when you're prepping for consulting interviews, definitely practice the case questions. This will essentially be like a market sizing question, or like if you're trying to figure out how to price a new product, how would you think about that? So they're very ambiguous, large questions, and you have to break it down into pieces and come up with a framework. So I would definitely read Case in Point, which is like the Bible for consultants, and practice case interviews with other people so that you can understand what that is like, since it's very different than other interviews processes. But behavioral questions and then consulting case questions, and then those are the main ones if you want to go into consulting.
Awesome. Thank you so much. If that was insightful for you, put #Amy, #insightful. We're going to find another question here. This is kind of for everyone. What would your #1 tip to succeed in your area or in your role? Sorry. Anyone can start.
Like I said earlier, get comfortable being uncomfortable. Point blank, period. And that's just in your role, in your life, in your career development, in your personal development. Like I said, if you've reached every goal you've ever had in your entire life by sitting in your comfort zone, please send me a message and let me know how to do that. Because if it's crazy, but ultimately getting comfortable being uncomfortable will not only help you succeed, but it'll push you to levels you never thought. It will help you, reach peaks that you never even thought were possible, and you'll reach places that you were like, what? I'm here? Like, I would have never thought that I would be working at Amazon, coming from a small town, Illinois, of 15,000 people. I'm like, Amazon, prior to Amazon, I worked with Jonathan at Google, and it's like, well, I never would have imagined, but I stayed hungry, and I shook those hands, and I made those conversations, and I took those courses, and I struggled and all that. But ultimately I got comfortable being uncomfortable, and here I am.
Awesome. Yes. +1 to that. We have another question here for everyone. I'm just going to click on that real fast. I don't know why it's not loading, but the question is, what skills would you recommend we learn during quarantine for career and strategy operations? What skills would you say are essential for doing well in your position? Anyone can start this if they would like to.
Go ahead, ladies.
I think right now is a great time to practice technical skills since we're at home on our computers all day. And so I recommend learning SQL since it's one of the key skills that I use on a day-to-day basis. You can use W3 Schools, which is the website I use. It was for free. They go through examples of how do you do like a simple select star? How do you join tables? How do you filter them? And just knowing the basics can really give you a leg up when you're interviewing, because a lot of times you can self-serve queries instead of having to rely on data scientists, data engineers to do work. You can just be so much faster. And if you know the basics, you can show that in the interview, and then you're more likely to get selected over someone else who doesn't.
Nice. So Brianna, maybe you can answer this next question that we have. As a recent graduate with no experience, how do you recommend they get experience?
Yeah, so I would say, pretty much alluding to the question before, just trying to accumulate all the different certifications that are on LinkedIn and being pretty much open to volunteering opportunities, because there's so many industry professionals out there who actually are looking for students who are open-minded and willing to take on a project or anything at all. So I would say just being open to volunteering opportunities and just reading all the different job roles. So one thing that I would do is look on LinkedIn for other people's job roles and descriptions and see how they phrase it, because everyone phrases what they do differently. And that way I ended up learning a lot more than I thought I would, and learning a lot more than even on the career side. So with no direct experience, I would say, going into the volunteering opportunities and doing some courses online and stuff, though.
Yeah, definitely. I've heard from multiple panels that I've even attended that volunteer experience is just as valuable as, formal paid experience. So definitely volunteer if you can, external courses, anything like that. I actually have a personal question for you guys. How do you overcome imposter syndrome? This seems to be a common theme in all of these speaker series, are students who are trying to overcome this imposter syndrome when starting their career. So any advice on that? Amy, we can start with you.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I also struggled with imposter syndrome going in to my careers. I worked at Facebook, I worked at McKinsey, I worked at Google. These are all like name brand companies where you're like, oh, like they must have made a mistake. Like I think someone like let me into the company and like I don't know what I'm doing. A lot of time I feel like I'm faking it till I make it, which is actually a good mantra to live by. Like just act like you know what you're doing. And then people will gain trust from you as you start learning more and more. And then you'll start feeling more confident about yourself. I feel like for me, really time helps. Like once I started hitting that like 1.5 year mark, 2 year mark, I felt like I started knowing a lot more than other people because I've just been on the team longer. And so I felt more comfortable speaking up during meetings and giving like ideas. And so I would just say like be confident in your own abilities, and they chose you for a reason. So it's not like they made a mistake, and you belong there from day one. And so just know that.
Yeah, definitely just learn how to believe in yourself for sure. Brianna or Dom, do you have anything to add?
Would you like to go?
Oh, you can go ahead first.
Yeah. So, imposter syndrome, man, I cannot tell you how many times I walked into a new office being the tallest one with a big curly afro. I have a nose ring, I have tattoos on my arms, and it was just like, nobody looks like me. I'm the tallest one. So I always felt like I was out of place. I always felt like, ah, do I deserve to be here? And then I just really thought about it like, I work hard. I earned this. I deserve this. And then once I kind of started reminding myself how hard I worked, I'm built for this. And that's one thing I always tell myself, I'm built for this. And then after I say that, I say I fake it till I make it, and then fake it a little bit more, because ultimately that's what's going to give you that confidence. You just have to roll with the punches and just keep taking it on the chin. And it's going to be uncomfortable, and it's going to be a very, very uncomfortable process. But once again, this is what happens when you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. This is what happens. So ultimately just looking at yourself in the mirror and saying like, Dom, you're built for this. You earned this and nobody can take this from you. And then, with time, that confidence will come. But ultimately, just reminding yourself that you got this, you made it this far, and you're going to go farther. And just believing in yourself you'll shatter that imposter syndrome. Like now I can walk into a room and I'll be the tallest with the most tattoos and the biggest curliest hair. And I'm just like, hey, everybody, what's going on? I'm initiating the conversation. I'm starting, maybe not initiating the meeting, but I'm starting conversations. I'm initiating friendships. So this way I'm getting comfortable with those around me, and they're seeing that, oh, I'm genuine, I'm friendly, I'm outgoing. So then you just start to build those relationships a little bit better, and then you won't feel so out of the loop.
Nice. That was very inspirational. Brianna, anything to add?
Yeah, I have stuff to add. So firstly, it's something that I still struggle with, imposter syndrome. I still struggle with it, but I would, feed myself daily, daily affirmations to tell me that, I'm worth it. And I actually did work hard. I struggled through college, and I'm very deserving of this opportunity that I'm currently in right now. And secondly, I would just try to remain true to myself, because staying true to yourself really helps you to show up as the confident person that you are. But being, fake or pretending to be something that you're not, sometimes it does kind of affect my confidence level at times. So I try to stay true to myself. If something's not funny, I wouldn't laugh at it. I would laugh at things that are funny to me, simple things like that. So I show up as my true self, and it helps me to be more confident in who I am, and helps me to battle imposter syndrome in some way. So,
I absolutely love that. That's amazing. Very inspirational yet again. And I think we have time just for one more question. This will be our last question from my coworker, Joe. She wants to know, what's one fun thing that you're all involved in outside of work? So Brianna, we'll go ahead and start with you.
Yeah, sure. So one thing I've recently started is keeping up with my fitness. That COVID-19 15 wasn't really sitting well with me. So I started to exercise more, take more walks and stuff. There's this class, I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but it's called Cycle Bar. Mm-hmm. And it's located all over the US. So I've started doing that like on a day-to-day basis. And it's been pretty fun. I've also been, cooking more, baking more, reading more self-help books, and listening to different podcasts, so real estate, financial health and wellness and stuff like that, because I am trying to break, the generational gap within my family with just, the financial obstacles that we faced in the earlier days. So, yeah.
Yes, that's amazing. I totally resonate with everything you just said. I love self-care. I love self-help. Affirmations definitely have totally helped me in believing in myself. So let's go to Dom next. Any fun things that you're involved in?
Everything under the sun. I'm new to Las Vegas. Unfortunately, I did move right before the pandemic. But one thing that Brianna said is reading. I'm not much of a reader, I wasn't much of a reader just because I just don't have the patience and the attention span to just sit down and read a book. But one thing, it was just finding books that not only appealed to me, but made me want to pick it up. So there's a lot of good books, and please, if you need any recommendations, let me know. but ultimately like feeding my soul, feeding my mind, and feeding my body. And then on top of that, just finding different ways to connect with people. As y'all can tell, I talk a lot and I love to be like physically around people, just because that brings me happiness, that brings me joy, surrounding people, making people laugh, learning about other people, not necessarily talking just about myself, but just asking people questions about themselves. And naturally, that's been a little bit hard because of the pandemic. You can't just go out and shake somebody's hand, but I'll just be walking by, like, wow, that's a nice mask. It's just a boring, plain old mask. I'm just like, that's a nice mask. Where'd you get it from? And they're just like, oh, I just got it from the store. Oh, really? What store? I'm new to here. And then, just trying to make friends and just trying to network some more and just keep making friends and don't let it stop. Once you reach that place where you feel stagnant, because especially during this pandemic, like you could be very stagnant. It's very easy. You can make an excuse like, oh, I'll do this next week. I'll do this week. But like, nobody's waiting around for you and nobody's going to hold your hand. So just go out and get it,
Yes, I love the just do it mentality that you have. So we're going to go ahead and move to Amy, a fun thing that you are involved in outside of work.
Yeah, so I have a puppy. She's a 1-year-old mini Australian Shepherd. So she's a lot of energy. I've just spent a lot of time playing ball with her, frisbee, going on puppy dates, and to the beach. So that's been one thing that I've really enjoyed. And then also doing a little bit more of like online workouts. So Pamela Reif, Chloe Ting.
Uh-oh.
Did we lose
She's
Amy?
still killing it, y'all. Don't worry. She's still killing it.
Amy, come back.
Amy, come back. Do.
Oh, no. I think we lost Amy a bit there, but she has a puppy and she's taking Chloe Ting and workout classes, which we love. So I hope that Amy comes back, but we're going to go ahead and wrap up with the live stream. If Amy comes back, you can feel free to speak up. But yes, I'd like to thank you all for joining us today on this Wonsulting Live. Thank you for taking time out of your day to collaborate with us. We really appreciate it. And Joe, I have Joe here today. Love it. Oh no, yay, Amy, you came back.
I'm back. My internet just died on me.
Oh, it's okay. Did you want to go ahead and finish what you were saying?
Oh, in addition to playing with my puppy, I've been doing a lot of online workouts like Pamela Reif, Chloe Ting, and so I have newly deformed abs. They're not completely there yet, but you can kind of see them.
Little baby knuckles down there. Okay, I see you.
Exactly.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for sharing all of your insights today. We really appreciate it. Everyone who's watching, go ahead and make sure you connect with them on LinkedIn. Send them a personalized message. You can tell them you saw them here or one thing that you learned today. Go ahead and connect with them. Also, don't forget to share, like, comment, and subscribe to Wonsulting's YouTube channel. It'll really help us reach more winners like yourself. And yeah, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up. But thank you guys again. It was so nice to meet you. This was so much fun. All of our people watching, we will be back tomorrow with day 3 talking about finance. So we will see you tomorrow. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Huge shout out to Ronnie. Great job moderating.
Thank you. Thank you.
All righty, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.
All right. Bye.
Mary, bye.